I am going to be running out of here in just a minute, but before I go, I did want to say just a couple things. One, the Post-Chain Foundation has been working. I have to give like a huge shout out to Crypto Coffee. We would not be as far as we are without the work that he does in the background. A lot of people see the streams. A lot of people see, the Twitter posts and whatnot. But this man is actually behind the scenes, like taking calls, taking video chats, like really hitting the ground, the pavement to get this listing done. We are well in the integration process of listing posts on MEXC. We needed to raise $120,000 for this listing. We're about 40,000 away. We were about 20,000 away, but there's dips in the game.
Dips are in the game.
Dips are in the game. But this is a legitimate listing. We have a contract signed. We still would appreciate any support that the community can do. Like, no amount is too small, right? Like, literally we could do 40,000 with 400 people doing $100 or whatever. If you can do more, then do more. Like, especially for projects, I think it's really important for them to embrace having a centralized exchange listing, because right now we still have to do everything through ETH. And it's so expensive, and it's only going up. Like, this ETH ETF is only going to make the price of ETH, continue to go up, which has impact on us when we try to bridge out. So we need a way to be able to just allow people to buy posts and then bring it into the system, into your own wallet, and then do your trades and everything else like that. So that was my one thing. postchainfoundation.org/membership to see our very transparent wallets and all of our different membership options. And then the last thing is that Europe is going to be lit. I mean, y'all are not ready.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
What's going on, everybody? It's your host, the Crypto Wonder. Hope you're doing well. Let's get right into it. So, this blog is going to be about some of the things that I see that's taking place in the DeFi post-chain ecosystem that I find worth talking about, to say the least. This whole thing with MEXC listing and raising $120,000 so that post-chain could be listed on MEXC, because utilizing Ethereum is a pain, is costly, things of that nature. Although I can understand those viewpoints, bringing attention to post-chain, allowing people to onboard easier, there's something here that's amiss, in my opinion, right? For whatever that's worth. There's something that's seriously amiss. Whatever happened to no middlemen? Whatever happened to not listing, or not even listing, but not utilizing centralized exchanges? Why? It's because when you give these exchanges your crypto, the crypto is no longer yours. Essentially, these exchanges become the custodian. They have the keys. So you relinquish your crypto onto an exchange, hoping that whatever you're doing while utilizing the exchange works out. You hope that these exchanges don't get hacked. You hope that you're given the permission to get whatever coins that you have in there out, to get them back, that your account doesn't get frozen or you're unable to withdraw, etc., etc.
You'll lose the confidence of the masses.
Look, if you put your money in unaudited financial software with anonymous founders, you deserve to lose all your money.
So what's the point of doing that then?
Kinds of business. This is a move slow and be real safe and secure, because everyone gets hacked all the time. So you better do it right. You better do it right. So there are people that get hacked constantly. And I mean, OKX, how many billions are trapped right now because the founder's under arrest? Right? But why? Because people gave them their coins. I don't want to show my thing too much, but think about all that money that gets lost. Why do people put their money in exchanges? Because they're trying to make yield. Well, what if you made a smart contract where it paid you the yield and you kept your own keys? There's no counterparty risk. You can't get exit scammed. You're minting your own rewards, just like a Bitcoin miner. Bitcoin miners invented and minted every single coin that's ever existed in Bitcoin. Every Bitcoin any of you hold in chat right now went through the hands of a miner. He made it and invented it for you. He didn't ask for permission from anyone to do it. He didn't receive it from anyone else. He invented and minted that coin himself by the rules of the network. And now you have them. Well, you can do the same thing, except instead of rewarding people to pollute, you reward them to hold the price up, just like they do in legacy and CDs. And now, you don't have people getting exit scammed. You don't have people using insecure software. You don't have people using centralized limit order books with iceberg orders and hidden tomfoolery and spoofing, right? Where you show an order and then you pull it right before someone goes to fill it, right? Oh, there's some liquidity. I'll tap that, get a good execution. And boop, and oh, it's not there. And you didn't use a limit, so now you're filled way up here because you used market. Oops. Now you know not to use markets ever. Never use a market order ever. Use limit order always, or you'll get filled somewhere you didn't think was possible. Particularly when there's lag on the exchange. like the trade engine's, 30 seconds behind what you think is going on. Or it's 30 seconds ahead of your screen. Depends. Could go both ways. So Hex solves centralization, solves pollution, solves exit scams, solves it solves so many damn things. It's just crazy that no one else has done this. How could you want to replace the banks and not build their second most popular product? Isn't that don't you have to build that? So you got to build that because people still want to use it. Right.
But here you have now a collective of people within the ecosystem that have been in Hex since the beginning, that have done a lot of things for the community. They've thrown events, a slew of things. Can't take those things away from them. This is not about taking anything away from the efforts of certain members of the community that have done a lot, right? This is not about that. This is about the efforts right now that are raising a great deal of questions by way of raising money to list on a third party, to list and deal with intermediaries, to say, hey, MEXC or any other centralized exchange, you're willing to utilize them, you're embracing them, you're taking on the risks involved with everything related to centralized exchanges. To what end? Is it really just about being able to onboard people easier onto Pulse Chain? We know Pulse Chain, you have to go through a few steps in order to interact with the chain itself. That's why there's a bridge. Yes, you have to deal with Ethereum first, etc., etc. I get all that. But when you've been campaigning to list, to do these things, you're essentially going against no middlemen. You're going against things that the founder of Pulse Chain, NX, PulseX, and Inc. has basically taught the entire world about why it's important to avoid or lessen the exposure to dealing with centralized exchanges. Okay? How many times has he given examples, for example, of people that he knows who've had crypto on Binance, and Binance made them feel like their money was held in hostage because they wouldn't be able to take their monies out without pleading to Binance in whatever way and capacity, whether customer service, I don't know. I don't use Binance, but you get my point. Other exchanges as well too. These things get hacked. These things are is risk everywhere dealing with centralized exchanges. Why do we use DEXs? Why do we use decentralized exchange? These things are not talked about enough anymore, especially if you're part of the group of people in this community that have been in there since the beginning, that have seen massive gains and wealth from Hex in the beginning. You've thanked Richard, you've been excited, you've been happy, and have shown it visibly, publicly, even on film.
A tattoo that proves it.
Richard Hart supporting, crypto loving, money making enthusiasts.
Anyone who has bought.
And this is what you do now. See, you have to ask yourself, what's the agenda? What's the motive? You as an end user, me as an end user, participant, whatever, I have to know why I'm in crypto. You have to know why, because this is ultimately this is up to you to decide what you're going to do with these cryptocurrencies, how you're going to utilize them, and how you will benefit. But when you listen to people who are talking all the time, you have to be mindful of who you're getting your information from, seriously, because if you didn't know who these people were, and you didn't know that they had a certain history as far as being die-hard Hexagon believers, they may still be die-hard believers, but they're doing things that pretty much are opposite of what Richard has taught. That's one main example right now, because this is something that was spoken about recently by way of giving an update on raising $120,000 to be listed on a centralized exchange in the efforts of promoting adoption.
You don't find that suspicious? You don't find that suspicious?
This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. At all. For people who know, this does not make any sense. And I'm not necessarily speaking for people, I'm speaking for myself. And this is why, I always talk about the mixed messages that I see, that I've discovered within, the space, and what I hear all the time, because when new people come in and they discover these things, and they're watching and they're witnessing, and they're just taking things at face value without really understanding the history, without really taking a look at the origin, the backstory leading up to the events that are taking place presently and now, you can get lost in the sauce because you don't know any better. This is why it's always important to do your own research. It's always important to verify what's being said and not take things at face value from people. It's very annoying to see people who've been in the community who've said that they've been around since the beginning. They'll fight for the token. They'll fight for these freedoms. They'll fight for the real crypto. They'll fight for DeFi and do all these things, and then present situations that are opposite of what the core principles of DeFi and crypto really is about. Why not list with, or try to list with, other exchanges? And this thing about constantly, asking for donations upon donations and money and all of this.
Donations. Gifts.
You have to understand, it's more than just about people criticizing you for being rich and still asking the public for money, right? It's bigger than that, because in addition to the concerns of folks might ask, if you're so paid, if you're retired, if you did so well with Hex, 10,000x gains, etc., you surely can afford to fund whatever project or efforts you're trying to make. On top of that, you're doing something that's going against peer-to-peer, that's going against permissionless, that's going against censorship resistant, that's going against the tenets that hold everything together by way of cryptocurrency. You're raising funds so that you can set up so that these coins could be in an exchange, so people buy and they relinquish their crypto and not understand the risk involved, because it's in the hands of a third party. Not only is it in the hands of the third party like MEXC, but ideally MEXC is an exchange that is restricted from usage among many countries in the world, including the United States. So in order for you to utilize MEXC, you can't even directly use it. You would have to go through different measures to access the website. That alone should tell you something, in addition to everything else. But these people will tell you that these efforts that they're doing is for the greater good and to make things a better place, to make the world a better place, or to add to the betterment of expanding the community and the usage, and can utilize a blockchain and be onboarded onto Pulse Chain.
What kind of shit is it?
But what's the ulterior motive here? Because none of this is making sense. This is not making any sense whatsoever. Am I wrong? I don't think so. Am I wrong for even asking? I doubt it. I doubt it. Right? Because these are the same people that'll tell you that, you know, you have other groups and individuals that don't want to support builders and projects, and you know, Pulse Chain people need to build on the chain and things of that nature. And the whole narrative for me that I've said already, it's not about I don't support builders. I don't support disingenuous activity that's being done on the blockchain. I don't support scamming activities. I don't support grifters. And if something looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, guess what? It's a duck. It's looking like it's quack quack quack. That's what it's looking like. And you look crazy. You know, it's I don't see how people are blind to, you know, what's going on, in a sense, if you're really paying attention. It's amazing to me. And not in a good way. Not in a good way. Not at all. You know, there's a disconnect that's taking place too, that I've observed within the community. There are many different communities in Pulse Chain now. And the disconnect that I've discovered is between the older generation and the younger generation. The younger generation identifies the older as the boomers. And some of the points that the younger generation has made about the boomers, I have to agree. I really do have to agree. Because not everything that, you see, in order to move forward, you need to respect the harmony and the balance in things. In other words, the direction that the boomers want to take this, it doesn't seem that it's been very effective. But what do I mean by that? The visual campaigns. Years ago, a car was wrapped. Okay? A movie was created, which was great. A sports team was sponsored. Soccer team, football. Efforts have been made to throw conferences, to throw tours, to do all types of different things worldwide. But we don't see how those efforts have translated in a great way in the charts. We don't see how many things, by way of attempts to market, brand marketing has its purpose, brand marketing has its place, but we don't see these things translated in the chart in a favorable way. We don't see these green candles that are coming from the efforts of meetups or workshops or get-togethers or conferences or tours or whatever you want to call it. They have a purpose, but I don't know how effective those things have been. But meanwhile, the younger demographic might have a greater handle or greater grasp as to how to get people interested through different marketing strategies, because they understand, they might have a better understanding on how this crypto and DeFi thing works better than the older generation, especially in Pulse Chain. The millennials might understand this a lot better than the boomers. When Richard Hart was campaigning outrage marketing, who do you think he was trying to appeal to? Was he trying to appeal to the boomer generation and older generation, the conservative group or demographic? Or was he not trying to, basically appeal to the younger generation, the people who are representatives of the future, the youth? And letting them know, hey, listen, this technology is being created for you to use, for you to be in control. So no one can tell you when and what to do with your crypto and how to do anything with your crypto. You don't have to ask permission. It's permissionless. This is here for you to take charge. This is the groundwork. This is what's being laid out. This is what's being given to you. Take the lead. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Each one teach one. Speak about it. The word of mouth. Respect the power of the word. Spread the word in the ways that connect with you. And he tried to do it by way of wearing fancy clothes and things of that nature. And guess what? His social media subscribership increased. Richard Hart, I'm talking about. His efforts as far as that, it increased. Might have been a little bit off-putting to many. I didn't like some of the things he did, but it didn't matter what I liked or didn't like. His objective, I guess he reached. He didn't do this for me. He did this for the ones who didn't know, the ones who have a better grasp. Perhaps they're even young, viral hipsters. Children are the future. The youth are the future. And in order to bring balance, the older generation, like the boomers, can impart the wisdom, because we've experienced being young before, where we could impart the wisdom to show maybe how to navigate and avoid certain pitfalls or traps that the youth may not see yet. But because we've lived through those ages, we understand. You do X, Y is going to happen. You do this, this may happen. Just be aware. But not necessarily just take things grab the reins and just take charge without and dismissing everything else. As a boomer, you'll lose out. Because this community is not just made of boomers, it's made of everyone. Young and old and young. But it's the mixed signals that I don't appreciate. It's the mixed messages that I don't appreciate. I and that's what needs to be highlighted, and that's why I'm creating this content, to provoke thought for anyone who cares. If you don't care, shout out to you. If you care, shout out to you. Either way, it's whatever. But I just couldn't in good faith just hear this and watch this and not pose these questions. Like, and then people wonder why this narrative about a cabal came up months ago. Like, they folks ask questions as to why Richard is not, as vocal as he was and things of that nature. I'm not saying that this MEXC listing has anything to do with Richard not talking, or even people identifying certain cabal, members of a cabal, or anything like that. But it's these efforts that sort of separate from the core reasons as to why we're here. If everything was about supporting third-party middlemen, why do we have a DEX? And why do we have multiple DEXs now, whether you like them or not? We have centralized exchanges, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the centralized exchanges sort of like usurp everything in DeFi. Explain that, though. Folks are not doing that at minimum to say, okay, just try to do this listing and raising money and knowing that this thing is restricted among different countries, including the US, which people who are campaigning for this hail from the US. And not being straightforward enough to say, okay, you're going to have to do this, you're going to have to do that, this and that, that and this. And it's behind a foundation. It's behind a foundation. It's being done with this, with the name of a foundation that's already been claimed by another member in this community. It's already been registered by another member in this community that's alerted this group already about how they already have the Pulse Chain Foundation set up, registered, and everything. And it's just too much. There's too many. You want to talk about it now? Talk about leaks in a boat or leaky boats, and they haven't stopped any holes as far as this goes. To me, I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, now you're gonna go to a middleman. You caping and want to raise funds for a MEXC listing, and in the spirit of a foundation. Meanwhile, there's another foundation that's already been registered, same name, communication. It's all on the internet. This has nothing to do with nothing. It's just what it's, So it's confusion all across the board. So people are just going to do things with reckless abandon under the guise of what? Satisfying your personal achievement, your personal ego? Are you saying Richard Hart was wrong? Because if you're campaigning so strongly, so hard to list the coin on a centralized exchange, essentially you're saying Richard Hart was wrong at what you're doing. You have a better strategy and you think you're going to have a better outcome, with this endeavor behind a Pulse Chain Foundation name that's already been taken by another member in the community. And me as an end user, I'm supposed to take you as a group serious with your word. I'm supposed to trust you in a crypto space that's supposed to be trustless. I'm supposed to now trust you when you bring nothing but weird confusion. Make it make sense. Simple as that.
I only debate my equals, all others I teach.